over the last 3 years, Newsweek.com has named him one of the top 10 lawyers in the country. His book, Everything I Never Learned in School, A Guide to Success, is an incredible gift to anyone that's reading it, to continue to be inspired, to be motivated, and to continue to follow everybody's individual dreams. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Darin Colucci.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody being here. What a beautiful town. I can't believe how nice it is. I mean, I get to do, this is work for me. Can you imagine? This is not work. I want to thank V and the Rep and the Idea Boutique for putting this on. I very much appreciate it. But I'll let you know a secret. I would pretty much go anywhere I'm invited to talk about this material. I just love it. I feel that passionate about it. And whether I'm talking to one person, which I do a lot, or a group, I have the exact same mindset every single time. I want to change somebody's life tonight. Now that's a high bar, and I'm setting myself up for a problem right there. But it's how I feel. I want to change somebody's life. And there's never been an easier time to succeed in this world, and it's never been harder. Because I feel like as a country, we've lost hope in so many different ways. And this book that I wrote is about reinstilling that hope in people that you can do it too. You could live the life that you dreamed of. I mean, for real. The life that would make you want to get out of bed in the morning, you just can't wait to get to work. You don't care about the weekends versus Mondays because what's the difference? You're really enjoying what you're doing. And now here's the kind of strange thing. 90% of what I'm going to tell you is simple. So simple you might think, that can't work. So simple that you could do it over coffee. But I don't want you to confuse simple with easy. It's not easy. It's simple. No one has to run a sub 4-minute mile. You don't have to break bricks. You don't have to know trigonometry. You just have to have an open mind and change some of the perceptions that you have. Now, everybody in here, I don't care how old you are, you've pretty much led a lifetime of assessing what you can and can't do. Life does that to you. You start thinking you're just not cut out for maybe what you want, or you don't see yourself doing something amazing. We don't see ourselves living on Lake Como next to George and Amal. You know, George, buongiorno, paisan. You don't see yourself doing that ever. But you should, because it's no different for you or for a famous person. So let me give you one word of caution, then we're going to get to it. I want to talk tonight like it's a game plan. I want to tell you exactly how to succeed from start to finish. Now, I go into much more detail in the book, but I want to tell you the broad strokes of how you can do it too. And I mean it sincerely. And the very first thing you have to do is understand that so much of the advice that you get is terrible. And we accept it as true. We don't even question it. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's the worst advice in movie history. Bar none. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Better advice than that. That is terrible. It's dangerous. It's injurious. Do not listen to that. Okay? Life is not like a box of chocolates. You should know exactly what you're going to get because you set out to get it. That's the difference. Right there, right off the bat. Do you know how many people leave their happiness, their financial fortune, their contentment, their fulfillment to fate? Why would you ever want to do that? Why would you want the feather to land on your book? You hope. Or do you want to be the master of what you want? Do you want to set a course for yourself? That's the way to do it. Now, half of this, I'm going to wind up reading people's minds. It might not apply to all of you, but I can virtually guarantee it's going to apply to some. You're thinking, what if I don't know what I want? That's perfectly all right. What's not all right is not thinking about it. That's not okay. You got to think about it. And I want to set out exactly the steps you have to take. And here's the first one. You have to start at the end. How do you know how to get there if you don't know where there is? You're just going to go to college. You're going to graduate. You're not going to have a plan. You're not going to know what you're doing. It's not going to work. You got to put real thought into it. Most people say they do, but they don't. Henry Ford famously said, thinking is the hardest work there is. That's why so few people do it. How many times have you turned off the phone or turned it down, turned off the TV, and sat and thought, what do I want to do with my life? What excites me? What would I do for free? What would I, in my mind's eye, what would I see my ultimate dream being? What if money were no object and I could do anything I wanted? What would I do? How many people do that? That's what you have to do. So think of it this way. Let's say I handed you, my friend, the most technologically advanced GPS ever made by NASA. It could get you to the furthest reaches of space and back. We're talking genius here. It would be completely useless to you unless you had one thing. Anybody? Come on. The destination. Okay? You're better off with a toaster if you don't have the destination. So now here, this book that I wrote, it's a GPS to success. It will get you there as fast and as safely as can be done. Absolutely without doubt in my mind. But I cannot give you the destination. Only you can do that. And every day you don't think about it, you're getting further and further away from a life that you could have. Because you're just floating. You're floating through life waiting for something to happen. And please don't get to that point where a lot of people do, which is, I waited and waited and waited and waited. It never happened. And now I'm too old to do anything about it. So let me deal with the next thing you're thinking. What if I don't know what my dream is? What if I don't know what my goal is? Perfectly fine. A lot of people are like that. And in the book, I give strategies on how to figure that out. And there's a couple different ways. If you're really lucky, you know. Some people are born knowing, I'm going to do this. And they set their whole life's course to the attainment of a dream. Most people don't. Most people, they kind of think they might know something and then they abandon it. They're afraid it won't work out. But let me give you an example that should give you heart. All right? Does anybody in here know who Sarah Blakely is? Okay, she's like one of my idols. So let me tell you her story quickly. You should appreciate this, my friend. Pardon me? Is she? Don't tell my wife that, she'll be jealous. All right, so here's her story. She graduates from college. She doesn't know what she wants to do. Sound familiar? So then her father wants her to go to law school. He was a prominent lawyer. Mistake, don't ever let anybody pick your dream. It's never going to work. It's never going to work no differently than if I said to you, please go to the church. I just picked out who you're going to marry. You're going to be happy forever. Don't worry about it. Go ahead. I got it. Why would you ever let anyone else pick your dream? So she takes the LSATs, the law school admission test. She does poorly. She can't get into law school. She took them twice. Now, she ultimately became a billionaire, so I don't think she's dumb. I think that wasn't her dream. She's trying to pursue something she doesn't want to pursue. She doesn't get in. So then she has to get a job. So she applies to be Goofy at Disney World. Goofy. And she doesn't get it. Now, you got to imagine, she's feeling low. You can't get into law school, and you're not good enough to be Goofy. That leaves a chasm, my friends, of how am I ever going to succeed in this world when I'm not goofy enough to be Goofy? You can't think she was okay. So what did she do? She figured, I got to get a job to make money. This is an awesome case study. So she gets a job as a salesperson who's going to go door to door selling office equipment. She's knocking on doors saying, do you need a fax machine? She's really good at it. She starts making a lot of money. That's a trap. That's a trap, and she was smart enough to know it. If you make a lot of money doing something that you don't enjoy, you have to make a choice because you're going to start buying things. You're going to get a car. You're going to get car payments. You're going to get a mortgage. You're going to get a house. Now you're thinking, what? I can't stop doing this. I make too much money. But you're miserable. What good is it? Now you're trapped by your own possessions. She was smarter than that. So she said, I got to sit down and I got to write out my goals. But I'm not positive what the ultimate goal is. So this is what she wrote. I want to invent a product that I can sell to millions of people that will make them feel good. That's all she had. In her mind, though, she said, this was a great quote, I was on high alert the minute I wrote that down. I knew this product was going to come back into my life. I knew I would notice it. So she's got a date one night, and she doesn't like the way panty lines look under her pants, so she puts on nylon. She doesn't like the way her feet look in shoes with nylon, so she cuts off the feet, and Spanx is born. And she's a self-made billionaire. Now, if you're thinking, as you're sitting here, I can't do that, then this is going to be a long speech because I'm not leaving until you think you can. I'm not going anywhere. My flight isn't for days. I'm okay with it. So unless I see somebody nodding in approval of what I'm talking about with enthusiasm, this is going to be a long speech. All right, how do you get there? You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to understand that your thoughts create your reality. No truer words were ever spoken. Now, this is one of those things. It's simple, but it's not easy. Your thoughts create your reality. Henry Ford, again, who was once the richest man in the world, said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Think about that for a second. Now, ask yourself, I don't want anyone to put up their hands, I would never want to embarrass anyone, but how many times in your life have you thought, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not cut out for that. In the next life, that's not for me. You can't do that. You're dooming yourself by what you're thinking, by what the ropes you're tying yourself up with. You're killing yourself. You can't do that. Your thoughts create your reality. And for most people, that's a negative. They have a bumper sticker that says, life sucks. If that's your motto, do not buy this book. Hold on to the money. You're going to need the $10. I guarantee it. If you have a bumper sticker that says life sucks and then you die, you're doomed in a half. You might as well get a tattoo on your forehead that says, I'm doomed. You have no chance. Now, when the Lord was passing out gifts, I got one when I was a kid that I thank him for every day. I got a lot of gifts from the Lord, but this was my favorite one. I don't know where it came from. I couldn't tell you. But if my mother was sitting here, she'd say, oh, that's true. My entire life, I've said the phrase, everything works out for me. I don't know where I got it from, but even when I was talking about a problem, I would say, yeah, everything works out for me. And everything always has. I rely on it. I remember when I went into business with my brother, 2 guys from New Jersey, going to business in Boston. We had no cases, no money, no prospects. We go into business together to start a law firm. And one of my friends gave me the greatest business advice I ever heard. We hearkened to it for 25 years. He said to me, don't worry about it. Something good always happens. So whenever we were down, whenever business wasn't coming in the door, we would say to each other, something good always happens. And something good always did. You got to police your thoughts and police each other if you're friends. Because as soon as somebody starts talking negatively, you got to call them on it. It's going to kill them. It's going to kill them. Now, since I wrote the book, I'm so attuned to it. All I do is listen to people, and I can't believe what I hear. I just can't believe it. So I get picked up at the airport. I walk out, no Uber, there's just a taxi there, old-fashioned taxi. I get in, there's a woman driving. Yesterday, nice woman. She said, what are you here for? I said, I'm here to give a speech. About what? I said, I wrote a book. She went, I swear to God. I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but why are you shaking your head? She goes, I can never write a book, never. I said, well, with that attitude, I could guarantee it. What do you mean? Did you ever try? She goes, no, I couldn't try. All right, that's mainstream. That's what everyone does. You have to beat that back. All right, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. Now, of all places to get inspiration, I'm going to the movie My Cousin Vinny. Still, one of the funniest movies ever made. Now, there's a part in that movie that no one ever would talk about, but it perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about. So I assume you've all seen the movie. So Joe Pesci doesn't look anything like a lawyer. He looks like Joe Pesci in every gangster movie. Leather jacket, medallion, hair like me, only really black, not gray. So the prosecutor in the movie says to him, words to the effect of, tell me how you got into the law. And I got this memorized. He says this, I got a BS traffic ticket. I went to court, I got the cop on the stand, and I argued with him until he admitted he was wrong. And all the while, this Judge Malloy, he's up there, he's smiling, he's laughing, and afterwards he asked me to go to lunch with him. He said, you know what, you make a good litigator. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I don't know what a litigator is. I never thought about going to law school, but this Judge Malloy, he was from Brooklyn too. I mean, he did it, so all of a sudden it seemed possible. So I went to law school. Stop. That's key, my friends. You've got to see it as possible. Until you have that aha moment where you believe that it's possible, it's never going to happen for you. Now, I don't mean to do that to you. I don't mean to be stark, but I'm playing the odds here. It's never going to happen until you see it as just possible. So let me give you the arc of it. When you decide it's possible, when you see whatever venture you want is possible, you're 50% of the way there. The minute you take a step towards it, learn about it, start researching it, talk to someone who succeeded, you're 90% of the way there. Now, the last 10% is the hardest one. Once you believe this is going to happen, you're 100%. It's just a matter of time. That's it. That's the arc of it. Most people, it's simple, but it's not easy. They just can't do it. They can't bring themselves to say, yeah, I'm going to be successful. And I mean just that. Say it. That's even harder. It's okay if you believe it. But if you can say it, then you got guts. Then you're even closer to it. So I tell a lot of stories in the book about famous people and not famous people on purpose, because I have this theory. If you're talking about a famous person, in your subconscious you think, yeah, but they're special. They're Oprah. I'm not Oprah. You know, I can't do that. I'm not Michael Jordan. So I tell a lot of stories about non-famous people because they're just like us. No different. So look at my case study with this book. I say, I'm going to write a book on motivation. And this is what you're going to get. You know how many books there are on motivation? Why would you do that? Because I think I can. Yeah, there's like a million of them. What chance do you have when Robert Kiyosaki's out there and whoever else, Anthony Robbins is out there? It's never going to work. How do you know it's never going to work? It's never going to work. Press on. I did. From the time I said I'm going to write a book until it was finished was about 6 weeks. Within 6 months, it was published. Within a year, my good friend Lisa Burwell had it up on the board at Times Square. And I was there 42 degrees freezing, waiting for it to come up because I wanted to see it. With my wife, who said, would you mind if I went in Sephora? I said, no, I don't blame you. Going to Sephora. Look out the window, though. Maybe it'll come on. It's true. I wish it wasn't true, but it's true. All right, you have to see it as possible. Now, let's move on to the next thing you're bound to deal with. This is key, because I've already touched on it. We all have limiting beliefs. What's a limiting belief? It's what you in your heart of hearts think you're not capable of. And that's far-reaching. It could be learning to ski, learning to be a pilot, opening your own business, losing weight. I don't care what it is. You have this limiting belief of, I can't do that. You have to recognize and overcome limiting beliefs. Now, I wrote the book, and I believe in this stuff like I believe the sun's coming up tomorrow. It rules my life, but it's sneaky. It'll sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. It'll worm its way in there. So, my wife and I get married. We move to a coastal community in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and we live right on Duxbury Bay. It's beautiful. From the day we moved in, everyone said, you're going to get a boat? Got to get a boat. Everybody here boats. Got to get a boat. You got the thing right in the backyard. Got to get a boat. I grew up in northern New Jersey. No one had boats. No one boated. I didn't know boating was a verb until I was 30. I had no idea. So my wife says to me, what do you think? You want to get a boat? Now, my lips were saying, yeah, we could do this. Sounds like fun. Maybe we could do it. What I was thinking was, I'm going to crash it. I'm going to kill people. It's going to be like Titanic 2. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I caught myself. I thought, I'm doing exactly what I tell people not to do. So I thought about it. I started to break it down. I thought, let me think about every yutz that I know that has a boat, and they're not sinking it. I can do this. I can learn. Why can't I learn? Other people do it. I know a lot of knuckleheads who have boats. So we got a boat. We've never had more fun in our lives than since we got this boat. Taking friends out, taking family out. Last 4th of July, we watched the fireworks from the water. It was wonderful. But think about what all of us would have missed if I didn't get over, I'm going to crash the boat. It's sneaky. And you know what my real hope for tonight is? This will ring in your head. And the next time you do it, you'll have that moment that I just talked about. You'll say, what the hell am I so afraid of? Because you got to get a hold of these. Now, there's two kinds of limiting beliefs. There's the kind you put on yourself, what you think you can and can't do. And then there's a second kind, which is just a sin. And that's when other people put their limiting beliefs on you. They foist them on you. You can never do that. You're not cut out for that. That's a sin. Don't listen to people that say that. Because you know what they're doing? They're afraid of it. They never did it. They can't do it. They can't see how you're going to do it. That's why they're not doing it. Don't let it stop you. Just because someone else can't see how you'd be successful. Just like my book. Don't write a book on it. You know how many people write books, but don't listen. Move forward, no matter what it is. You know what a great question to ask someone who does that? Say, this is very telling. Why? If they say anything like, it just won't work, disregard it completely and move on, because they haven't said anything. Now, if they give you a cogent reason, don't abandon it. Listen, maybe you can learn something. Maybe you adjust your course. But don't give up on it just because someone else says it won't work. And let me tell you, they're going to line up to tell you your idea isn't going to work. It's part of who everyone is. They're unhappy, you have to be unhappy. They're not chasing their dream, you can't chase yours either. That's the way it works. Don't give in to that, okay? So you got to deal with these limiting beliefs in all their forms. That's not an easy thing to do. Because what are they all based in? Fear. I love this phrase. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. So the question goes begging. What the hell are we so afraid about? What has got us gripped in fear? I see it every day of my life. Everybody's afraid. What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't? So what? You adjust and you move on. It's all how you view things. Here's a great one. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Try to imagine this. Something that's used in every building on Earth. 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 It's a big place. They said to him, is it true you failed 10,000 times? They were almost trying to give him a compliment. He said, no, not at all. I proved 10,000 times absolutely that each previous configuration didn't work. See, now, he's right, because I look at it the same way. Every success is just overcoming failures. That's how you get to success. So I don't look at them as failures. I look at them as problems, and I look at problems differently than everybody else. I like problems. I know it sounds ludicrous, but I do. I'll tell you why. Success and money and fulfillment is on the other side of the problem. It's right there. It's just hiding. But when you just see the problem, you're never going to get to the success and the fulfillment and the riches that are on the other side of it. So I don't mind problems. So part of my life, I'm a lawyer. Whenever anybody calls and says, I have a significant case, but it's been turned down by 3 other law firms, 100% of the time I say, come in. They say, really? I say, yeah. And I've had people that work with me say, those are good law firms. Don't you think if it was a case, they would have known it? Every time I say, no. They see a problem that they think they can't overcome. I'm going to fix it. And if I overcome it, we win. And we get the money. Now, if it's an impossible problem, greatness is on the other side of that. Greatness. Never look at anything like it's insurmountable. My wife, whom I love, said to me, you know, one thing you say that I love. She said, every time you see a problem, you say, we're either going to go over it, around it, under it, through it. Somehow, we'll get to the other side of it. And I believe every single problem can be solved. So when you're going towards whatever you want, your dream, your desire, you're going to come up against problems. It shouldn't be easy. You got to earn it. But don't be daunted by the problem, because what you want most is on the other side of it. You just got to know that. Most people see the problem and they stop. They say, well, I don't know how to do that. You say, well, keep after it. How long did you try? See, now, my mother, I'm going to catch so much grief for saying this. I like to do these Mensa puzzles. Been doing them my whole life. I like them. So it's like, what's the next number in the sequence? It's like code breaking. So I'm a kid, I'm 20-something. My mother says to me, what are you doing? I said, I like these puzzles. I said, you got to figure out what the next number is in the sequence. My mother said, let me see it. I give it to her. She went, I don't know. And she ended up back to us. That's it? I look at them for weeks. Weeks. I put them on the wall in my office and I stare at the thing trying to figure it out. Some people look at problems like this. I don't know. They're not going to succeed. That's not the way to view a problem. My mother denies saying that, but she said it. I don't know. All right, you got to think of that when you're moving towards what you want. Don't let the problem freak you out. Success is on the other side of it. Now, here's one of the last things you got to deal with. Steve Jobs said, what separates successful entrepreneurs from unsuccessful entrepreneurs is persistence. And I could give you 1,000 other quotes. Everybody says that's the key. I mean, everybody that's ever succeeded says that is the key. See, successful people don't quit. They don't stop at the problem. They don't stop at the insurmountable. They don't stop when it's undoable. They find a way. And you have to persist. And sometimes it's hard when people are telling you, don't you think you should quit? No. No, I do not. No, I do not. You got to find some guts in doing this, because if you're going to pursue anything that matters to you, you're going to take some flack. Society loves it when you say, I'll never own a business. You'll never get societal backlash. People love to hear that you think you're going to fail. They'll say, well, that's too bad. What they have trouble with is when you say, I'm going to own my own business. Oh, how are you going to do that? When are you going to find the time? I don't have the time is the biggest cop-out in the history of the world. It's pretty much all women in here, right? If your boyfriend says, I didn't have time to text you, he lied to you. Lied. That bastard lied to you. We have time to do anything that matters. You find time. So now, if I use myself in any example, it's never to impress anybody. I don't need that. I'm doing it to impress upon you. Well, the biggest question I get is, when did you ever find time to write a book? You own the law firm, you got a wife, you got a family, you've got other businesses. When did you find? You make time if it's important to you, period. So that's under the how bad do you want it category. They say fortune favors the bold. It's never going to reward the lazy. Never, 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 never. So you find time. And this puts people off. They'll say, well, I don't want to get up. You get up early before anyone in your house wakes up, and you write. You write before they go to bed at night when everyone's doing homework or watching television. You do it on the weekends. You do what has to be done because it's your dream. It's your goal. It's what you want. We're going to be here a long time. All right? Persistence is a key. Now, impossible is an opinion. I'm going to prove it to you. People love to say things are impossible. I want to tell you a story. It's 1,000% true. Every single thing I've told you is 1,000% true. I was dedicated to the truth when I wrote this book, even writing things that I was embarrassed about, things that I don't think I handled the right way. I just was never going to lie in any way, shape, or form. So the story I'm about to tell you, this person had longer odds than you'll ever deal with, no matter what your dream is. Okay? So you know I'm a lawyer. I handled a case for a gentleman who was in an industrial accident. He got hurt badly. And when the case was over, he moved his family from Massachusetts to Florida because the weather was conducive for his injury. So a couple years later, he calls me. And you ever get that phone call with right off the hello, you know there's a problem? So I said, Ernie, what's wrong? He said, my son was in a horrible accident. I need you. He says, it's bad. I said, I'm on the next plane. So I get on a plane. I come down to Tampa. And I don't want any of you to ever walk in a room like this. I go in, and this 27-year-old boy is on a bed. He's got a tube in his mouth breathing for him, and he's paralyzed. He's like this. He's stiff as a board. He's got family members in the corner crying and praying. There are CT scans and MRIs on every inch of the wall. It's horrible. And I'm standing with his father. And a doctor comes in, and she looks at him, and she says to the father, he's had a terrible spinal injury. It's permanent. He's never going to move again. We're going to try to keep him alive for the next 48 to 72 hours. That's the best we can hope for. And we'll just take it from there. She said, I'm sorry. And she turned to walk away. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a room like that, but if you have, you know, everyone talks in whispers. It's like being in church. You don't raise your voice. And then I did something that sounded so out of place, everything stopped. I said, hey. And the doctor stopped. I swear the machine stopped breathing for him. Everything stopped. The prayer stopped. I said, where do you get off saying that to him? And she faced me and she said, because it's the truth and I'm not going to lie to them. And I turned to the kid in the bed who could only move his eyes. He couldn't even smile. I said, hey, Derek. And he looked at me, so I said, don't listen to this shit. I said, I think you're going to walk again, and you should too. And she left. I voiced what he wanted more than anything in the world. Hope. That was it. So 2 years later, and it takes how long to say 2 years later? A quarter of a second? 2 years later of doctor's visits, infections, needing help in the bathroom every single time you go in the bathroom. 2 years of nothing's changed. He's got a vertebral fracture. He had a spinal cord disruption. He's not going to walk again. 2 years. I'm on an iPad like a trained monkey going like this, and I see a picture of this kid standing up, and it's a video. I click on it, and he's walking unassisted. I couldn't believe it. I called his father as fast as I could. I said, Ernie, is that real? Is he walking? He said, yeah. I said, when did that happen? He said, just the last day. I said, I'm so happy for you. He said, you remember what you said in the doctor's office there in the hospital room? I said, yeah, I remember. He said, you know something? That made all the difference in the world. My wife and I agree. That's what made him walk again. He never stopped believing that he was going to be able to. Now, if he can do that, can't you believe that you can open a salon or be an actress or any other thing you want? For that kid, it was impossible. He had hundreds of years of medical science saying, impossible. And he beat the odds. And in that video, look it up. His name's Derek Amaral. He's a great kid. You can look it up on YouTube. He says, belief and hard work as he's walking with that walker. That's what it comes down to. So now you're kind of at a crossroads with all the things I'm talking about. If it means anything to you, if you have a dream, if you're trying to get started or unstuck, that's how you do it. And I want to leave you a little metaphor. Imagine this. Imagine when you graduate, college, high school, or you want to get out into the working world or try a venture. They tell you this. You got to go down to the marina, and there are vessels that are going to take you to what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So you go down there, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens of rafts and just a couple of boats. So there's a salesman for the raft. You walk up, and he says, that's right, hop on that raft. You don't need to know anything. You float right out into the channel today. You'll be in the ocean, and out there are hundreds of islands, and each one represents a job. And you don't know which one you're going to bump into, but everybody does. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes 5 years, but everybody bumps into an island, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You don't need to know anything. You just jump on the raft right now. You're ready to go. So you figure, okay, you walk over, you feel, let me listen to the other guy at least. There's a guy with the boat, and you walk up to the boat, and you think, like I did, that's intimidating looking. A lot of switches and valves and knobs and screens, big propeller. That could hurt you. And the salesman walks up to you and says, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that this is intimidating. But let me tell you why you want the boat. Because with the boat, you pick the island of your choosing and you head right for it. You don't have to worry about which one you're going to bump into. You pick. And I know what you're thinking. You don't know how to operate the boat. Right? This book will teach you how to operate the book. So it costs $10. It's going to take you 2.5 hours to read, and you'll know exactly how to operate the boat. And then you're going to blow by everybody that's on the raft. Your wake is going to knock them over because you know where you're going. So then you say, okay, you can ask one question of each guy. So he goes back to the raft guy and he says, what about the rain and the wind and the tide? And the raft guy says, yeah, they're still there. It's going to throw you to and fro. You never know where you're going to wind up. It's part of the fun. Who knows what you're going to wind up doing? Go back to the boat guy and you say, what about the rain, the wind, and the tide? He says, yeah, it's still there, and it's going to knock you off course occasionally. But you get right back on course, and you head for the island of your choosing. And that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because you chose to do it, as opposed to bumping into something, which is what everybody else does. That's the choice you have with what you're going to do with your life. I hope you choose wisely, because I'm going to close with this. This is probably the most unpopular thing I'm going to say all night. Because I've had people say, you know, I'm not sure you want to say that. I say, well, I don't want to lie to anybody. When you do it, and you will, it's awesome. It's so much fun. I didn't know life could be that much fun. It's exciting being able to take the vacation you want, not the vacation you can afford. And I've done both, so I don't look down my nose at anybody. But being able to be charitable to those that you love, help young people, help your mother, be able to buy things for people that they really need, donate to charities, engage in the things that you love that make you really get excited, those hobbies that you've always wanted to do. Now you can do them because you've earned it. You've earned the right. It gives you freedom. It gives you happiness. Now, not in and of itself. Money never will do that. But if you have everything else, and I cover this in the book, it's essential. I got a beautiful, awesome wife. I got the best wife a man could ever ask for. My son is fantastic. I got great friends. I work with people that I love. I live in the same town with just about every family member I have. I believe in integrity, gratitude, respect. When you have all those things and you achieve success, the kind that you want, the kind that you went after, the world opens up like a flower. It's fantastic. I want that so much for everybody, and that's why I wrote the book. I don't want to hoard the information. I want to give it to as many people as possible, because you want to know what I want selfishly more than anything? When you get the cover of Time, or when you open your shop, or whatever you do, drop me a note. That's all I want. Say, you know something? It made a difference. I remember you saying blah, 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 and it made a difference. That's all I want. That'll make me a happy man. Which, of course, is your responsibility, to make me a happy man. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your attention. If anybody has a question, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Anybody? No one ever asks a question. I don't get it. There's got to be one. Yes, my friend.
Like, let's say you know what, like, you want to do. Like, do you advise someone to just go ahead and do it, or they say you're supposed to make a business
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Everybody's life is different. And one of the things that I'm very, very proud of is I've read every book on this subject virtually. I wanted to write one for real people with real strategies in it. Not everybody can just stop whatever they're doing and chase a dream. Okay, most people can't. So this is what I suggest. If you really care about what you want to do, you want to spend most of your spare time doing it. You want to pursue it. You want to talk to people who have succeeded in the same area. You want to read biographies with a critical eye. Don't just read it so you can pat them on the back. You learn from them. You scout locations, you do a business plan, but you keep working while you're doing this because you need income. But most people, as I say, it's simple but not easy. They'll say, well, when am I going to have time for that? Okay, now we're right back to making excuses. I don't have the time. You have the time if it means something to you. You arrange your life so that you can do it. I went to law school at night because I couldn't afford to go during the day. No one paid for me to go to law school. I had a full-time job, 9 to 5, and I went to law school 6 to 10 at night. I ate burritos out of 7-Eleven. You ever eat a burrito on 7-Eleven? I don't care what you do to that microwave. One side's like lava, the other side's like ice chips. Can't avoid it. I did that for 4 years. So this is answering your question. It's not easy. You got to apply yourself and do what Sarah Blakely did. She kept her job, but she worked on it. She says in her book, I passed up on dates I wanted to go on. I passed up on a lot of opportunities because I didn't want to leave at night because that's when I was working on Spanx. So it kind of comes down to how much you want it there, my friend. Anybody else? Yes?
I loved your conversation about 50 to 90% of your researching it. You're a lot closer than you think. You're becoming your own expert. And I'm curious about your thoughts on the concept of letting perfect be the enemy of good.
Oh, yeah, I agree. A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow, for sure. We were talking before anybody got here, the subject of perfect came up. I hate perfect. Why would anybody want to be perfect? Why would you look for perfect? It doesn't exist. And why should it? You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for movement. You want to move towards it. You want to learn about it and step towards it. Remember I told you, saying it's possible, but not just saying it, but believing it. Seeing it as possible, that's 50%. The minute you start working towards it, 90%. You're 90% of the way there. You got to learn a little bit every day. You got to carve out a little time to do those things. And it doesn't have to be a perfect plan. You're going to make mistakes. That's perfectly all right. It's kind of how you learn. No one learns from success, ever. You learn from failure, right? You don't ever learn anything from success. It's failure that's going to help you. Don't think of it as failure. It's what you got to go through. It's a misstep. It's okay, I learned that lesson. Boom. Now I'm moving on. Don't let it freak you out. I love this stuff so much that if you guys keep asking questions, we will be here all night because I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think that when you expect perfection, you just set yourself up for disappointment?
Yes and no. See, again, I look at it differently. I'm a little, I don't know what the right word is, a little advanced on this subject because I've studied it so much. Mm-hmm. So I'm not ever seeking perfection, but also I rarely get disappointed about certain things. For example, let's say this room is filled, or let's say there's 3 people here. I swear to you, I couldn't care less. I'm talking as enthusiastically to whoever's here, and I couldn't care less if someone's not here. It's kind of how you look at things as to whether or not you're going to seek perfection or not. I don't think you need that, and I would never be disappointed about anything. I hate this, and I find that women say this a lot. No offense, I don't want to get myself in trouble to say, I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to be disappointed. I hate that. I love the excitement. Why wouldn't you want to get excited? Why would you cheat yourself? Because you're afraid of being disappointed. You can't deal with it? You're an adult. Deal with it. Today, just today, a woman that read my book wrote to me, and she said, I'm so filled with courage after reading your book. I did something I've wanted to do for 25 years. She said, I always wanted to be an adult model. I think I could do it. And I actually had pictures taken. I sent it in, and someone called me, and they want me to come in. She was exuberant. And I felt 50% thrilled and 50% sad. I was thrilled because she did it. I was sad that she blew 20 years not doing it because she was afraid of rejection. Dr. Seuss was rejected 44 times by different publishers. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't telegenic enough. Meryl Streep was told she was not pretty enough to be an actress. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. I could go on and on and on. So they heard the criticism, but they moved forward. Do you understand? It's kind of your emotions. It's how you decide to look at things. I heard Arnold Schwarzenegger say something that changed my life. It seems so innocuous, but it really did. He said, I've conditioned, before he was Arnold Schwarzenegger, this was before he was really famous. He said, I've conditioned myself never to get upset over what I can't control. He said, if somebody stole my car right now, I couldn't care less. He said, I'd call the insurance company and that's it, because I can't get it back, and what's getting mad going to do with it? Now, I heard that and I thought, well, I don't know, could you be that emotionless? The answer is yes. Because I learned it's a waste of time. I have a beautiful car. I was driving to work last year and I looked in my rearview mirror and said, oh, this is going to hurt. And somebody crashed me from the back. And the poor kid got out and said, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so sorry. I said, relax. I said, it's a car, man. I'll get it fixed. And I meant it. People, now you're thinking, well, you have money. No. I meant it. It's a piece of metal. It'll get fixed. And I can't uncrunch the car. So what am I going to get mad at? And I'll tell you one more, because this had a profound effect on me. I came home one day before I really understood this stuff, and I was upset. Someone had done me wrong, and I was mad. And I came home, and I was explaining it to my wife, and I could see that it wasn't registering with her. She wasn't as mad as me, which was making me madder. So I said to her, out of just grief, do you not understand what I'm saying? And she says, no, I understand it perfectly. I said, well, you don't seem to appreciate it the way I'm appreciating it. She said, no, it's not that. It's just, why would you let a bad day ruin your night? That changed my life. That changed my life. Because I walked away and I thought, holy smokes, how weak am I? I'm in a bad mood, so she's got to be miserable. My son's got to be miserable. We have to have a bad night because I had a bad day. It's never happened again. And I walked in, I said to her, you know something? You're 100% right. I said, let's go to dinner. I'm sorry. And I saw she was really, I said, let's go. Come on, everybody. Because she was right. Now, it's how you look at things. There are certain things you won't be able to change. You just deal with them. Well, I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to be disappointed. Why would you miss out on the excitement? I love the excitement part. I love sending the book out and seeing if someone's going to like it. When I wrote this, the publisher said to me, don't send it to Kirkus. I didn't even know who Kirkus was. She said, it's a review agency. Don't send it to them. I said, why? She said, because they're notoriously tough. Everybody gets a bad review, at least partially from Kirkus. I said, no. Send it to Kirkus. No, send it. See, I live this stuff. I don't just talk about it. I got a glowing review from Kirkus. Said it was fantastic. Not a negative word in it. Now, I don't tell you that to impress you, to impress upon you. She's trying to talk me out of it because they're tough. Everybody's scared. And when you start hearing this stuff, I'm hoping it rings in your head weeks, months, years from now. You're going to be in these positions and you're going to say, I hope, no, go ahead and do it. Are you? Yeah, try it. Go ahead. So what? If they say something negative about every book, why is mine going to be worse if they say something negative about me? How does that hurt my chances moving forward of people liking it? It's just a different way to look at life, I guess. And it will help you if you can adopt it because you spend a lot less time angry, I can tell you firsthand. I got it down to like 30 seconds. Something ticks me off now, 30 seconds. I'm like, son of a... Be all right. All right, yes?
You mentioned that you have to recognize and overcome limiting beliefs.
It's key.
And beyond just saying, I'm being silly, and ignoring what you're telling yourself,
Yep.
do you have any tips or suggestions on how to overcome?
I do.
Because those are very strong.
Without a doubt. That's your biggest roadblock is you. See, one of the things I want to get across to people, which is touchy, because people don't want to hear this, I mentioned to my friend Lisa, one of my best friends said to me last week, you know what I hate about your book? No one ever said that to me. I went, no, what? He said, I hate that you hold a mirror up to people because people don't like the mirror held up to them. He was very astute because it's not preachy and I'm not yelling at anybody, but I do tell you flat out, it's up to you. You're not where you want to be because of you, not because of anybody else, not because of your upbringing, not because of your education. Those are all excuses you're giving yourself. It's because of you. And to answer your question, you've got limiting beliefs that you have to recognize yourself through honesty. I mean, we're talking honest introspection. It might be that when you're afraid of something, you procrastinate. That's a limiting belief. You have to figure that out. You have to figure out, why am I not doing that? How come I'm supposed to send it, but I haven't? I keep forgetting. You're not forgetting. You're afraid because of what we're talking about. You don't want the rejection. See, I have this theory. People would rather keep the dream alive than deal with the rejection. But keeping the dream alive does nothing for you. You're never going to move forward. You know where you're going to be a year from now? Right in the exact same place. You're never going to move doing that. So only until you take that step are you going to realize what you are capable of, what you can do. Then it's infectious. Once you start getting a little success, then you're like, yeah, bring it on. Yeah, I can solve that too. Now you're fearless. And then everything changes. If you're interested in this subject matter at all, and you go on YouTube, which is an awesome tool, I love YouTube, you're going to see every famous person you know saying versions of what I'm talking about. I mean, every one of them will say, it's just fear holding you back. It's just you. You're holding you back. People don't want to hear that. They'd rather think my mother was a wench, my father was nasty, whatever. Whatever it is, it's over. Now it's on you. You're going to let the rest of your life slip away because something bad happened to you when you were a kid or somebody did you wrong in business? You're wasting your time. And you're not going to get where you need to be with that type of attitude. Just accept it. It's on you. Who's got another question? Anybody?
Darin, how can you, like, where do you get the belief to believe, basically? Because, I mean, I know I walk a lot of what you talk.
Yeah, you live it.
But it's hard to, like, believe in belief.
Yeah, it is.
So how do you do that?
A couple things. Now, I'm going to answer her question. I don't want anyone looking at me askance. That's what the book is for. And that's why that woman had called me up who's 62 years old and is trying to have a modeling career said, you filled me with courage. That's what the book is for. And let me tell you why, and I mean this, I'm not trying to be funny, why you want your own, why you don't want to give it to your niece or your nephew and not have it. You want to refer to it because life's going to get in the way. That wind and the rain and the tide, it exists. Life doesn't stop just because you have a positive attitude. You can wake up and say, I'm going to have the greatest day of my life, and you're still going to have a flat tire in the morning, it can happen. So what you have to do is refer to this. If you're getting knocked off course, if you're feeling down, you open up the book, you start reading about what other people have done, about simple changes you can make, and something happens where you're starting to feel confident again. That's what happened to this woman. That's what happened to my friends. They called me and said, you know, I hate to admit this, but I actually did this because of your book, and for whatever reason, it works. And I have books like that still to this day, if I'm feeling down or something's not going the way I want it to, I'll grab it and I'll open up a random chapter. You know, just page 152 and start reading. It makes me feel better for whatever reason. It will manufacture. You can manufacture belief in yourself by starting with stopping. It's a tortured sentence. You have to start by stopping holding yourself back and thinking negative thoughts and being negative in general. I mean, my wife said to me, stop listening to sports radio. She says, it's 100% negativity. She's right. Absolutely right. And when you're around that, even around people, think of that. Do you know people that are negative? You got, that's a tough one. You got to limit how much time you spend with people because that's a cancer. And it will infest in you. It will happen. You don't think so, but it's like osmosis. It just sneaks in there. Now you start becoming negative. And nobody that's negative succeeds. It just doesn't happen. You can do it. You can manufacture confidence, which is not an easy thing to do. I understand. That's a great question. But something like this will help you. What else? You have to have a question. Yeah. What'd you say?
No, I thought Lisa's question
Okay.
was really good.
All right. No one else? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, if you don't mind, something fantastic happened to me last week about it. When I wrote this, I talk about my wife a lot. She said to me, you know what, we got to get this in schools. And I said to her, to my knowledge, not one of these books has ever made it into a school, and I know that people like Tony Robbins has tried. Never. I said, but I agree with you. See, just because it's never been done doesn't make it impossible. I said, I agree with you, and that's what we're going to do. I said, we're going to get this in a school.
But it happened.
Okay? Pardon?
I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, well, you see, now you stole my story. You come up and tell. Here. Okay, so now let me fill in the blanks. Now that you ruined it. All right, so, but it's kind of funny how it happened. So I don't know a soul in Philadelphia, not one person, literally. So I'm driving to work one day. I'm in traffic and I do something you're not supposed to do. I'm stopped, but I look at my email and I see an email from someone I don't recognize. I click on it. And it's a woman who works for a school in Philadelphia. I come to learn her, an elite high school in Philadelphia. Their senior class got $17.8 million in scholarships. So I see this and I read it and she says, I got your book, I love it, and I want to talk to you about using it as a textbook with next year's senior class. Now, I tell you, expect the best, but I was shocked. And I called my wife and I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, you're just not going to believe it. I said, let me forward it to you while you're on the phone. And I heard her screaming while she's reading it. We talked about that having coffee. And we both said, that's going to happen. We had no business saying that. We had no plan for that to happen. We just said, that's going to happen. I figured, let me get it off the ground first, and eventually I'll do it. That's a great example of how if you put things in the forefront of your mind, if you say you're going to do it, it takes guts. It's hard to tell somebody, I'm going to do something that, Tony Robbins got $1 billion. I'm going to do something Tony Robbins couldn't do. I'm going to get my book that no one's bought yet in a school as a textbook. It takes guts to do that. But you know what? That's how you get it. That's how you get what you want, is you got to have a little guts. You have to have a little forethought and a little belief. And I'm really reaching on this one. Conor McGregor, I barely know who that is. He's a fighter. I didn't even know if it's MMA, MAM. I don't know how to do it. But the other day I heard him say something that was awesome. He won a championship and they said, is it like you envisioned? He said, it's exactly like I envisioned. He goes, I thought about this day and I dreamt about this day and I pictured this day and I made it happen. And then he said, you got to believe in yourself. And this was the key. He said, it's easy when things are going well. The hardest work of all is to believe it's going to happen when things aren't going well. And that's what I'm telling you tonight. I say it's simple, but it's not easy. When you've had a bunch of setbacks, it's easy to stop thinking about this stuff. Stop thinking about success. Stop thinking about your dream because it's not going my way. Why are you different than anybody else? Oprah didn't show up and say, I want my own TV show. And they said, sure. Go right through this door. That's not the way it works for anybody. You got to have that belief in yourself, even if it's manufactured, even if you're saying it and trying to convince yourself. You got to do it. And think, even when it's not going your way, it's going to go my way. I'm going to get this. This is going to happen. That's part of that arc we talked about with the first part is saying it's possible, next is moving towards it, and that last critical piece is believing it's going to happen, no matter what, no matter what's going right or wrong. Anybody? Yes?
What are your top 3 go-to at this point in your life, sources, whether it's for inspiration,
Books?
or for knowledge, or motivation? Who
That's a great
or
question.
what are-
The book that crystallized it all for me, because I didn't know how to do this. Part of my normal speech is I give a lot of background, but I didn't want to do that tonight. I was lost coming out of college. I felt like I had talent, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to succeed. I was lost. I went to law school out of default. I gave up. I'm embarrassed to say. I went to law school because I didn't know what else to do with my life, and I figured, well, I'll get a job and I'll make a living, and it's, I'll say I'm a lawyer and that'll be good. It was the wrong reason to do all of it. And then I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is pretty much the Bible on this stuff. But you can write that down, but before you do, let me explain why I wrote this book. Because Think and Grow Rich was the first one like this. He was charged with the responsibility. It's come under question of whether it's real or not. Some people say he made it up. But they said that a rich person of the day, Andrew Carnegie, said to him, I want you to reduce success to a scientific formula. I want you to interview every successful person that you can find, and I'll pay for it. And he came up with the Success Formula book, which is a lot of what I'm telling you tonight. But it was written 80 years ago, and it's written in a very difficult to understand manner. He talks about transmogrifying, all this. It's hard to follow. So that kind of flicked the switch on for me. I got it after reading it, but it's a tough read. Then there's a book called The Traveler. I don't know if you ever heard of that. I don't even know the name of the author. That's a great book. Okay, I love that book. Yeah, it's about it. Yeah, it's about, he takes different parts of history and he explains how all these concepts that we're talking about, fear and things like that, how it played into history and how people changed the world because they believed in this and they overcame fear and limiting belief and the like. It's really an inspiring book. Those are probably my 2 favorites. The third one was, I like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then that's come under fire as you feel kind of used when you find out maybe it isn't true and he made it up, and I guess the principles are still good. It gives you some basic financial education. Those are 3 pretty good books. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, did you have a question there? I thought you were going back to the well. No? Anybody else? I really appreciate you being here.
That was awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for being here.